Hello everyone, this is MartyMan341 here, and welcome to the third and probably going to be the last installment of How Many Days Does Super Mario Bros. Take place in? Well, probably not the last one, but I'm planning on going on a hiatus for this series, and I'll tell you why when we get to the end of this video. Today, we're going to be tackling Season 3, but before we begin, I want to make a big disclaimer. Normally, we go by an episode-by-episode basis to analyze how long each day is. However, over the past few days and months, of course, we start to realize that so many extra plot elements were happening around the same day. Example of this, episode 26 through 28. Only 3 people split up to find each piece of a Never Emblem. And most of that all took place in the same day. You could say that the sun is setting in one shot, and then the next episode, it is bright as day. You could say that's a new day. But we already know what's really the truth here. All of this is all in one day because it is based on a perspective from someone's point of view. Something that DK and Brock took 10 minutes to find took Link and Ness almost 10 hours to find. Like, before the quest even began, we already know that this whole quest is all happening simultaneously. And pushing through Season 3, this quest is going to be pushed even further. But before we begin Season 3, let's go ahead and start off where the day was. Mario and Luigi looks out for the cross. They meet up with Waluigi. Mario snatches the cross out of his pocket and then goes off to fight Decius. He meets up with Decius and they fight. Now obviously I also uploaded a video earlier about 3 things in this video. The fact that I wanted to include a unique edit that is a reference to Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, where 2 fights are happening at the same time. You could technically say that it probably happened simultaneously because, like, oh, you think, like, maybe still a long walk to get there. But I found ways to make the fight scene work like it's a cool-looking movie. So I took advantage of that while I still can. Anyways, Waluigi leaves, and Mario and Decius has a one-on-one fist fight, which ends with Nox Decius about to kill off Mario, only for Wario to stab in the back with a Never Saber. But before we begin Season 3 after, if you know from a later episode of Season 3, that's not all that happened that same day. After Wario killed Decius, the darkness have possessed Mario, and Wario and Berserk Mario have a 1v1 fight, with it being pretty intense. Wario, of course, knocks Mario out of it, and proceeds to kill Mario, and then the Never Saber turns off, and Mario flees the scene, before Wario grabs the Truth Stone. Mario, being exhausted from the fight, Luigi finds him and takes him to bed. And we're not even like 5 minutes into the episode, and we already have a time frame. Mario has to sleep for 12 hours, and at the end, it's still daytime. But let's just say that the entire Nox Decius, Mario vs. Wario, and Luigi vs. Waluigi fight all took place in the morning, which is why, like, I believe outside should be relatively afternoon for the most part. But you can make up your own mind, say that time doesn't exist in Mario and SMB. But again, we will talk about that subject pretty much near the end of the video. Anyways, meanwhile Mario's asleep, the darkness has contacted Wario to tell him to find Nilroom. And Wario proceeds to go find Nilroom. And then the darkness also contacts Waluigi and tempts him to give in to the dark side and try to snatch the Never Saber from Wario to kill Mario, with Waluigi refusing and fleeing the scene, only to never be seen again. Okay, before we get to episode 32, I want to talk about a little recap of how the transition between day 105 and day 106 is like. So, Mario, Wario, of course, retreat and all that stuff. And then, like, Luigi finds Mario, puts him in bed, and he's in bed for pretty much the entire day. 12 hours to be exact. So here's how it would go chronologically. So, if I was uploading a video of, like, day 105 and day 106 in real time, it would be after I put him in bed, Wario talked to Never Saber and Waluigi and all that stuff. I already talked about that. But what would happen next is that, like, after Waluigi's running scene, I would insert Wario just meeting up with Nilroom, and then we cut to Mario waking up on episode 31, And then I would cut to Wario with Never Saber, excited and all that stuff. And then cue in next day, 106. Link shows up. Now here's why I think Wario scenes in episode 32 are in day 105, while Link and Mario scenes are in day 106. And that's because, like, Mario slept for 12 hours, and of course by the time he wakes up, it should be probably around the afternoon. So it'd be weird to see Mario wake up, and then Link shows up out of nowhere. If anything, Link shows up, acts like it was like a new day. Like the way he arrives and then scours around the stuff and then like gets milk and all that stuff. It feels like it's a brand new day, according to him. How can you see him do this in the afternoon or something like that? I just don't see that. So that's why I'm marking when Link shows up, it's a new day. But it wouldn't make sense for Wario to find no room on day 106. So I'm going to say that Wario scenes are in day 105, Link and Mario on episode 32 are in 106. Anyways, the rest of this, let's just get straight to Dave for episode 33. Episode 33. Well, it's pretty much a old typical season 1 day, isn't it? Because we're going to the mailbox, which means it is now day 107. So after a long weekend of hunting down evil and all that stuff, Mario wants to have a nice breath of fresh air and go do some basketball with Solid Snake. Meanwhile, while Gina is worried about Waluigi and gets ready to confront Wario about the situation. And then crazy antics happen and blah blah blah. You pretty much get the rest of the day until we get to episode 35, where we find out that Mario had Wario's lightsaber. So they go inside and talk about what happened that day. And after recapping the events of earlier, Nilroom and Darkness meets face to face to talk about how to recharge the saber, with Nilroom neglecting to tell the Darkness anything, and then reveals to be Merlin. Okay, we are approaching day 108, but before we begin, we have important things to talk about. This is a big disclaimer I want to talk about real quick. We're going to be doing the same thing we did for episode 26 through 28 and episode 29 through 31. But for a brief summary, let me explain. For episode 37 up to 42, there is 3 plots going on. Plot A, Mario and Luigi are looking for Waldgina. Plot B, Ash, Snake, and Otacon are looking for Merlin's table to destroy the Never Saber. Plot C, Link and Stephen Bauer are going into the forest to find the artifact. All 3 of these plots are orchestrated like it is all happening all at the exact same time. So going through day by day with an episode by episode basis would not do this justice. Instead, we're going to have to look at it through the POV of all 3. And because of that, there's also a lot of time frames from episode 37 all the way up to 42. So to explain how far it is, let's go through plot A first. Mario meets up with Merlin. They talk about in the darkness lies the truth and all the explanation that us, the viewer, should know about the darkness, the Truth Stone, the Never Saber, all that stuff. After all that, Mario and Luigi regroup, and then they meet up with Peach to offer to play tennis, only for her to say, nope, I'm gonna go work at Carl's Jr. Then they talk about how to find Wario. They need to find Waluigi, and to do that, they need to find Waldgina. And then the next time we see the Mario Brothers is in 2 episodes later, not episode 38, but 39. And Luigi said that they have traveled 20 hours, and they haven't gone as far as their mailbox. So, we already know that a lot of time has passed in between a Peach's encounter and this area. So yeah, we have our first time code, and it's 20 hours already been passed. After checking the mail, they go to a park, where they meet a crazy fan, and then get chased all day, only for their house to be stolen. And cue in timecode number 2, 5 hours later. Mario's still shouting. Yeah, he's been shouting for 5 hours straight. Mario and Luigi have been looking for the girl for so long that I'll be talking about when this will all put together later. But they meet with the UPS man, who is actually holding on to the hats, who directed the Mario Brothers to point them in the right direction. In which case, they meet up with the Crazy Fan, and they contacted Ash to intercept the packages, only to find out, oh yeah, he is the one who bought the packages. Oh, but we'll talk about him later. But after Ash got the packages, 5 hours later, third time code in this one plot alone. So right off the bat, only a total of 30 hours plus have passed. Anyways, they get their hats back, and then they regroup at the tree, and then they plan their next move. But before we get to that, let's move on to plot C. Yeah, I'm gonna go to plot C first, before going to plot B. So Link has been asleep for most of the time. He's been like having this long dream about him being in the forest, and mysterious and all that stuff. He was trying, the darkness lured him to try to find the artifact, only for the coconut to prematurely wake him up before he gets to see it. So he wakes up, coconut was actually underneath his bed, and they go outside and they take a walk. Link is convinced that the coconut part of a dream was real, and instead of getting an answer, he decides to wait out in the field for get this, a full 24 hours later. So an entire day has passed, but we'll talk about how I put this all together in a moment. So day 2 passed, Link has realized that it was a whole waste of time, so he's about to go to Hyrule, only for Stephen Boward to stop him. Tell him that he needs to find the artifact, which led them to going towards the forest that Link was looking at earlier. They both go into the forest, and all that stuff takes place. They look for it. Link still gets no response from Coconut and decides to go out for water. While David Bauer does absolutely nothing, the darkness tells him that his entire scheme, only to tell him that the coconut was the reason why he woke up. Anyways, later on, Link comes back. Coconut tells Link what happened, and Link has brutally massacred a human, and prayed for God for forgiveness. He then continues to look for the artifact, which is underneath this bridge. It turns out to be the Fire Flower. He realizes he must return it to Mario. Now, of course, only one time frame took place, but it's a big time frame, a 24-hour gap that is literally one day, and I believe that the entire forest journey was all in about one day or so. Now, let's go to plot B. Wario, so frustrated that he couldn't get the Never Saber to work, decides to devise a plan to lure Ash Ketchum to where he assassinated Nox Decius and plant the Never Saber there, so Ash Ketchum can find it and meet up with Snake for Snake to figure out what to do with the thing. Mario advises to destroy the Never Saber, who later gets a call from Wario disguised as Master Miller to advise Snake to take the saber to Merlin's table, which he has no idea where it is, but Ash knows where it is, because apparently this is where Pokemon originated before being sent to the Pokemon universe. Some sort of interesting lore of how Pokemon is created, huh? Now this is why I saved this plotline for last, because guess how long the journey is. So after they venture into their quest, passing by a few restaurants and a shopping mall or something like that, Snake realized that they've been walking for about 12 hours and getting absolutely nowhere. Ash is still confident that he knows where it is, so they keep on going. 12 more hours later, so now a full day has passed, and they're in the back of the alleyway, and Ash gives Snake the news that they need to travel for another 47 hours. A full 2 more days until they get to Merlin's table. And they say, fuck that, we're gonna go to the movie editor's office, and we're gonna cut all that crap out, but realistically, we know how long the journey is. And I say, I'm gonna make up my own rules, and I'm gonna say, they make it to Merlin's table, obviously 2 days have already passed, because that's the length it took to get there, and all that stuff. So right now, it is currently day 111. So once they finally arrive at the table, they actually accidentally activated the saber. And Wario was on their trails this entire time. They ambush them, and Wario takes the Never Saber back, fully recharged, getting ready to cause a massacre. Oh, and you may be wondering, how did Ash Ketchum get back to his house and bought the hats around that time? Well, let's talk about a plot point that happened way late in the series, Season 5 specifically, when Mario, Brock, and Gary were together.
So how long will it take us to get to Professor Oak?
Well, about 5 days if we walk.
Walk? Neither of you guys learned how to drive, huh?
No.
As they realize, the Pokemon trainers don't really drive cars or ride bikes or something, even though they do ride bikes. They usually walk the whole distance, which is why the journey took forever. And in a later plot point, in a later episode, and we'll talk about it later, but I'm going to talk about it now, Mario has no problem getting to Merlin's table in such short notice, because it seems like it isn't a long distance to get there. Well, that's because...
Well, I've got a car, so we're gonna drive.
Driving is usually the most efficient way to get somewhere in like 10 minutes or so. So like what can really take like over 3 days by walking could take about maybe 30-ish minutes by driving. So we could assume what happened is on their escape, Snake grabbed a vehicle and took Otacon and Ash and drove them home. We could assume that because do you really think that Wario, after he gets the saber, do you think he's just gonna like wait like 2 more days or so before starting Doomsday? I think he wants to just get on that train right away and find the Mario Brothers, because once he's got the saber already powered up, he's ready to do something. Another thing I should bring up is that during that codec conversation between Wario and when Mario joins in, Mario is missing his hat because this is around the time where Mario lost his hat to the fangirl. Also, he mentioned that he went to the real Master Miller's house, so I assume between this shot where they meet UPS and this shot where the hats get taken, Mario went to Master Miller's house. Unfortunately, it was off screen, we didn't know what happened, but we're just gonna assume that what happened. But when the Mario Brothers catch up to the fangirl's trail, it's clearly been a few days, because again, it takes Ash to get a few days to get to the table, and probably either the same amount of distance to get back home, or they probably just took the car that Snake drove, something like that. We don't know for sure. This is a part where everything gets confusing and all that stuff, but I'm just gonna say that Snake realized the bullcrap and just... yeah. And I assume the moment Ash got home, he went on the internet and found some Mario hats on eBay and bought them. Why? I don't know, just for, I don't know, like after being almost killed by yellow fireballs, he's gonna like, I'm just gonna go on the internet and buy this. So there's no way that Ash can be sitting in the couch and with Snake and Otacon at the same time. They can't be there at the same time. Oof. So, as you see, I have talked a lot about what happened between episode 47 and 42, and you can see how much time has gone by. Let's recap real quick. So, Ash, Snake, and Otacon took 12 hours to get to this place, and then 12 more hours to get to this place. Meanwhile, Mario wasted 20 hours trying to get looking for Waldgina, only to end up short by the mailbox because he didn't want to look and expand his surroundings. And meanwhile, Link also wasted 24 hours sitting in the field, trying to figure out what to do. And then he goes in the woods and spends most of the day in the woods. And then later, Mario ends up going to the park and then shouts for 5 hours, and then goes out to find the house. And then 47 hours later, Snake, Ash, and Otacon made it to Merlin's table, and then we can assume really, really late after all that happening, they make it to the fangirl's house, and 5 more hours pass by. So much time has passed that, like, it kind of becomes a hard tracking device to track down everything. But this is what we came down to, and now we are officially on day 111. Or day 113 if you want to assume that they also walked 3 days back. But I'm going to say it's day 111. Wow, that was a long one. But hey, after this video, I'm going to be uploading a 2-part video of how all of this put together if it was all in real time. So make sure you guys take a look at that. But now, let's finally take a breather. Finally get to where we are now. We are now in episode 43. It is currently like noon right now on day 111. So they wasted too much time looking for the hats, and they still have not found Waldgina. And unfortunately, Wario has a fully charged Never Saber and is pretty much on a massacre right now. So they need to stop him now, or else it's doomsday. But of course, Waluigi finds them, and then he tells them the events, and now they train for most of the day, and then they meet up with Wario with the epic bloodbath of a battle on episode 44. Again, still on day 111. Oh, what's this? 1 year ago? Oh, let's look at that later. Anyways, after an entire battle takes place, Wario is apparently the second chosen one. And now the Mario Brothers and the Wario Brothers finally get a breath of fresh air, knowing that the world is safe. Wario is now in their side, and now pretty much everything back to where it was, to the status quo. Episode 45 is actually the resolution episode, but most likely we're gonna say it takes place on the next day because, after a long fight that took almost the longest day, I believe our heroes got a big rest, and now the next day is how everything wraps up the season. As Merlin talks about beam swords and the Never Saber and the artifact and all that stuff, then every character has a resolution. We see Snake and Otacon. Snake taking out some random Genome soldiers because apparently Liquid is alive. We'll talk about that if we ever get to the movie. Ash meets up with Gary, and Brock returns from San Francisco. Mario goes to Merlin's table, and yes, it took a lot less time for him to get there because he has a car. It's a plot point in Season 5, I already talked about it, but we can say that it will take about almost 3 days to get somewhere on foot, when it could take about 30 or so minutes on a car. So yeah, the Pokemon trainers need to get their driver's license if they're gonna get somewhere quick. Anyways, Merlin talks about what happened over a year ago.
Wario was under Bowser's employment, totally unaware of what he was. As my alias Mill, I was able to convince Bowser to hire Waluigi so that the two could work together. It was imperative that Waluigi protect Wario, though he didn't know it at the time. But I didn't expect Wario to get so angry after Bowser fired him.
And they talk about the events about Merlin convincing Waluigi to team up with Wario. Wait a minute, let's just take back the previous flashback scene real quick. Okay, so episode 44, they have a flashback scene that took place over 1 year ago. Wario and Waluigi are on the bridge. They are talking about stuff, and Taco lacks all that stuff, and
Let's hop on the quad. Maybe we can race the Mario Bros.
Wait a minute, that took place on episode 11, and episode 11 took place on day 98. So, if we're doing our math correctly here, and that's only assuming that we're just going off by 1 year, 1 year in Super Mario Bros. Time is literally 2 weeks. So let's quickly do the math here. So, during that flashback sequence where it says exactly 1 year ago, the flashback scene is obviously taking place around where the Wario Brothers raced the Mario Brothers. It was 14 days ago, which equals the equivalent of 2 weeks. So if 2 weeks is 1 year, and we are now on day 112, so let's subtract 14 each time. We can only subtract a total of 8 14s in 112. That means, if we're going by the words of Merlin, where 1 year is 14 days, that means the entire series as a whole, as of this point, took place in 8 years. 8 freaking years. But wait, Marty, you forgot to mention that Merlin stated that they were talking about the beginning of the series where Wario is under Bowser's employment that only took place over a year ago. So it clearly cannot be 8 years ago that the series begun. It had to be below a year. And so at this point, you may ask yourself, where does this even make any sense in the first place? Okay, so let's talk about Out of Universe. So the reason why it is stated that's over a year ago is because Season 1 through 3 was filmed during the course of an entire full year. So you could say that Richie didn't really plan this very well, and say it took place in about at best 2 weeks. Now, as for reference, episode 45 was uploaded on April 10th, 2009, And the episode where the quad race took place was in February 28th of 2008. So it's like little underneath, like about 2 months from now, or less than 2 months. The episode where Wario and Waluigi got together was on January 10th of 2008. If we're talking about like where when Merlin convinced Waluigi to group up with him. And, of course, episode 1 took place on December 29th. But, like I said, this is based off of the production upload schedule and not the in-universe schedule, which is why I didn't consider that very canny. But you know what? It's probably because Richie was taking into account of the fact that the entire series took place within a whole year. But didn't actually count the exact number of days it took place. And this is not the only time that Richie has done this, because in Season 5, there was a plot point that even Kevin Chamberlain had brought up, which I'll play this here, regarding Waluigi sleeping for almost half a year, even though it didn't feel like half a year whatsoever. It feels like it should have been like at least 1 week in-universe. But here's what he said about it.
Luigi comes in and tells him that he's been out for almost a year, to which I call bullcrap on that, because Richie, just because these seasons were done nearly a year apart, does not mean that the story time frames within the seasons have to be a year apart. For all we know, it could have been done a month apart. A year just sounds way too ridiculously long for Super Mario Bros. In this particular case.
So pretty much what the theory is that just going off of Richie's upload instead of the actual in-universe date, which I don't think Richie really takes account for. But whatever, it is what it is. But anyway, so yeah, 2 weeks is 1 year in Super Mario Bros. Time, which means I guess by the time we get to Super Mario World, I would assume Mario's about like 100 years old. And I'm like, of course, I'm gonna get the Plumber Knight. Oh Jesus Christ, he's probably over he's like over 1,000 years old, so he's like the age of Merlin. But that's just overestimating of what I'm theorizing. If we're just going by the fact that 2 weeks is 1 year, but that's besides the point. So, and this is the main reason why, like, I think it's a good place to wrap it up on Season 3, because I have, like, Season 1, 2, and 3 all written down, and I think they would make great videos from this series, because, well, 1 was an interesting one because of a gigantic plot point that skipped 100 days, and then Season 2, we have, like, the testament of a certain quest that I think I should put together. And the same thing happened for this season. However, then we get to the ending bit, which talks about the 1 year thing. So obviously I had fun making this series, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of a jumbled mess to figure out where this all puts together. Because you could always say that in Super Mario Bros. Universe, time is just timeless. There's no such thing as time in the real world, in this universe. And this is a web series that later on, there's like a lot of fourth wall breaks, especially when like, oh, these are the original characters that were just visiting the real world for a day. And of course, a lot of game adventures exist on it, as like later on in the series, we talk about a lot of like references regarding Pokemon video games, Mario video games, and Smash Brothers, a big plot hole, but that's already covered in CinemaSins history. I don't mean to like get all flacky for this last bit, but I did all this work to calculate all this time, only for me to be cut short to realize, oh crap, we would be here for pretty much for 1,000,000 years, huh? Oh boy. But you know what? I think I still had a great time. Now, those wondering, am I going to be tackling the movie, Operation Blindstorm, Season 4, etc.? Season 4 is where things get a bit iffy. Maybe I'll do, like, what I'll probably do is I'll do the movie and, like, Operation Blindstorm and maybe the interactive adventure all in one video, just to, as a little, like, epilogue to this entire adventure. But that's for another day. And I don't know when I'll ever get to that. So it may get a while. But I kind of wanted to stop for now. Thank you all so much for watching this series where I analyze Super Mario Bros. The old nostalgia first 3 seasons in a whole unique way, where I count up how many days Super Mario Bros. Takes place in. So, as an overhaul, as of now, of Season 3, Super Mario Bros. Takes place in 112 days, or 8 years. Also, Season 3 took place in 7 days, or 1 week, or half a year. Alright, well, anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and the videos regarding episode 36 through 43 or so, it will be all uploaded in one video. We'll be uploading starting tomorrow. Make sure you stick tuned for that. Marius41, signing out.
Hey guys, I got this blanket in San Francisco! Whoa.
Please subscribe. It's free and easy. Just push the yellow button. And remember, every time you subscribe to Rich Alvarez, you gain immunity to 50 different varieties of poison. But please do not test which poisons you're immune to, because you could end up dead. No!